You ever notice how exams have this magical ability to turn perfectly normal, functioning human beings into sweaty, twitching bundles of nerves who suddenly believe that their entire worth as a person can be boiled down to a stack of multiple-choice questions and an essay they're gonna forget 5 minutes after they write it? It's amazing. One week you're walking around, thinking you're a relatively intelligent creature. Maybe you even know how to tie your shoes without supervision. And then exam season hits, and suddenly you're staring at a page of questions like a caveman who's just discovered fire. Your brain goes from "I got this" to "what is oxygen" in under 30 seconds. They call it a test of knowledge, but really it's a test of how long you can hold your bladder while pretending you understand what the question is asking. And the way people talk about exams, oh, it's serious business, this exam will determine your future. Really, this little stack of paper with a number 2 pencil is gonna decide my entire life. Not my personality, not my creativity, not the fact that I can make a mean grilled cheese. Nope, just this Scantron sheet. That's a lot of power to give a bubble. I've seen people treat those little circles like they were disarming a bomb. You miss one, boom, there goes your career, your dreams, your chance to marry someone with decent dental insurance. At least, that's the story they sell you. What nobody mentions is how completely ridiculous the whole thing is. Exams don't measure intelligence, they measure memory, and not even useful memory. Nobody's asking you to remember how to cook a meal, change a tire, or dodge your weird uncle at family gatherings. They want you to regurgitate a list of rivers, the dates of wars, or the square root of some number you'll never use outside that room. It's like training a parrot, except the parrot gets a cracker and you get a migraine. And the funniest part is that everyone knows this. Teachers know it, students know it, parents know it. But we all play along because someone, somewhere decided that filling in boxes with a pencil is a sacred ritual that proves you're ready for adulthood. And don't you love the way exams pretend to be fair? Everyone gets the same questions. Yeah, but not everyone gets the same brain. Some people can memorize a phone book in one night. Others forget their own birthday under pressure. You could have the smartest, most insightful kid in the room, but if they blank on the definition of photosynthesis, suddenly they're a failure. Meanwhile, the guy who crammed 5 hours of nonsense the night before and vomited it onto the paper gets the gold star. That's not education, that's competitive copying. It's like rewarding the best photocopier in a room full of printers. And oh, the preparation rituals. You ever see a student the night before an exam? It's like watching a soldier pack for battle, only the weapons are highlighters and stale coffee. They've got notes stacked so high they could build a fort, flashcards flying around like confetti. Some folks try meditation, some pray, some strike deals with the universe. Please, if I just pass this chemistry exam, I swear I'll never eat an entire pizza by myself again. Yeah, sure, the pizza's already on order. Others believe in Lucky Charms, special pens, shirts, even underwear. Like a pair of socks is gonna unlock the secrets of calculus. It's superstition masquerading as strategy, and we all buy into it because deep down we know the whole thing is a lottery. And then comes exam day itself, the grand performance. You walk into that sterile room that smells like pencil shavings and quiet panic, and you instantly feel dumber. The desks are arranged like tiny prison cells, each one a little island of fear. There's always that one kid who brought 15 pens, 3 calculators, and a look of quiet doom, just to remind you that you didn't bring enough. The instructor gives you a speech about not cheating, like anyone in that room is running a criminal enterprise instead of trying to remember what the mitochondria does. And then, the moment of truth, you may begin. Suddenly your brain decides it's on vacation. Words you knew yesterday are now just random squiggles. The question says explain, and you're thinking, explain what? My life choices. And of course, time becomes a cruel joke. 50 questions, 1 hour. It's like they're testing your ability to panic efficiently. The first 10 minutes you're calm, pacing yourself, writing carefully. 30 minutes in, you're sweating like a marathon runner. 10 minutes left and suddenly you're shading bubbles like you're auditioning for an art contest. And when the clock hits 0, the proctor swoops in like a hawk, snatching papers as if they contain state secrets. You could be mid, sentence, too bad, time's up, knowledge expired, hope you enjoyed the ride. Then you wait. Ah yes, the waiting. That magical period where your entire existence hangs on a number someone else will assign you. You replay every question in your head, convince yourself you failed, bargain with the universe again. Maybe if I just get a 50, that's still passing, right. 50's halfway to 100, that's like, good enough to live. And then the results come in. Maybe you pass, maybe you don't. But here's the kicker. A week later, you've forgotten everything anyway. All those late nights, all that caffeine, all that desperate memorization, gone. The information evaporates the moment you walk out the door. It's like your brain rents the knowledge for a limited time only, like a bad movie from a video store. And yet, society treats these numbers like they're carved into stone tablets. Employers, schools, even parents act like a test score is some kind of prophecy. You got a 92, you must be destined for greatness. Really? What about the guy who got a 65 but can fix an engine blindfolded or calm a crying baby in under 10 seconds? Where's his trophy? Where's his scholarship? But no, we're obsessed with the idea that the ability to regurgitate trivia under fluorescent lighting is the ultimate sign of brilliance. Meanwhile, the world keeps spinning and life keeps handing out real tests, ones you can't study for, ones where there are no right answers and nobody gives you a number at the end. And let's not forget the subjects themselves. Some of the stuff they test you on is so disconnected from reality it's almost poetic. You'll spend 3 weeks memorizing the exact chemical formula of something you can't even pronounce, but nobody teaches you how to file taxes or negotiate rent. You can solve a quadratic equation, but you can't figure out how to change the oil in your car. You know the capital of some faraway country, but you can't cook a basic meal without setting off the smoke alarm. But hey, at least you can explain the life cycle of a frog in excruciating detail. That'll really come in handy when you're trying to keep the lights on. The real kicker is that this whole charade is supposed to be about learning. But learning should be exciting, messy, full of discovery. Exams turn it into a chore. Instead of curiosity, you get anxiety. Instead of insight, you get indigestion. You don't explore ideas, you cram them into your head like you're stuffing clothes into an overpacked suitcase, praying it won't burst open in the middle of the hallway. And when it's all over, you don't remember what you learned, just how much you hated the process. That's not education, that's a hostage situation with stationery. So here's the punchline. For all the talk about exams being preparation for life, the truth is life doesn't come with study guides or answer keys. Life gives you pop quizzes when you least expect it. The car breaks down, the relationship falls apart, the job disappears, and there's no time limit, no multiple choice, no teacher to grade you. You figure it out or you don't. And nobody's there with a red pen telling you you're wrong. You just keep going until something works. That's the real test, and the best part, it's open book. You ever notice how exams don't just mess with your brain during the test? They start messing with your whole life weeks before you even sit down with the paper. The moment someone says, exams are coming. You can feel the collective panic ripple through the air like a weather forecast for a hurricane. Suddenly, every student transforms from a relatively relaxed human being into a jittery squirrel, trying to store enough information to survive a long, cold winter. Your calendar turns into a countdown of doom. People start speaking in hushed tones, like you're all in some kind of secret society where the password is "I'm not ready." The days leading up to the exam are like a comedy show with a tragic soundtrack. Everyone swears they have a plan, a carefully constructed, color-coded schedule that will lead them to academic glory. They've got charts, they've got timers, they've got highlighters in shades you didn't even know existed. There's always that one person who brags about how they're going to wake up at 5 a.m. every day to study. Sure you are. By day 2, they're waking up at noon and calling breakfast a tactical brunch. And then there's the rest of us, staring at a mountain of notes, realizing we spent the past 3 weeks thinking about studying instead of actually doing it. It's the procrastination Olympics, and we're all competing for gold. Late night cramming sessions are where the real comedy unfolds. There you are, surrounded by textbooks, half-empty coffee mugs, and a laptop that's running on its last ounce of battery, trying to force facts into a brain that's more interested in sleep. At some point, you start reading the same sentence over and over until the words lose all meaning. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Great. What's a mitochondria? Who cares, as long as you can write it down tomorrow? And the snack. So, the snacks. Chips, cookies, instant noodles, whatever's within reach. Suddenly you're fueling your academic career with enough sugar to power a small city. You tell yourself it's brain food, but deep down you know you're just stress, eating your way through biology. And let's talk about the creative ways people try to stay awake. Coffee is the obvious choice, but it starts to lose its magic after cup number 5. Then come the energy drinks, the sugary sodas, these special teas that claim to enhance focus. Before you know it, you're vibrating like a washing machine on spin cycle, wide awake but unable to remember your own name. Some people turn to bizarre techniques, slapping themselves in the face, doing jumping jacks at 3 in the morning, blasting loud music that's supposed to stimulate the mind. Yeah, nothing says scholarly excellence like dancing to an old pop song while mumbling math formulas. Meanwhile, the social dynamics get even funnier. Group study sessions sound like a good idea, until you realize they're just an excuse for everyone to sit in a circle and collectively panic. One person tries to explain a concept, another interrupts with a random question, someone else is scrolling through old messages instead of taking notes. Before long, half the group is laughing about some unrelated story, and the other half is silently wondering why they ever agreed to this nonsense. By the end, you've learned absolutely nothing except that your friend can eat an entire bag of chips without taking a breath. The rituals and superstitions are pure gold, lucky pens, lucky shirts, lucky socks, as if fabric and ink hold the key to academic success. People swear by them. I passed my last exam wearing this sweater, so I have to wear it again. Never mind that it hasn't been washed since last semester. Then there are the weird study habits. Some folks insist on rewriting every note in a brand new notebook, like the knowledge won't stick unless it's written on fresh paper. Others believe in reading aloud to imaginary audiences, pacing the room like they're delivering a TD talk to a very confused houseplant. Everyone's got a system, and everyone's convinced it's the only thing standing between them and total disaster. As the big day creeps closer, time takes on a whole new meaning. Hours feel like minutes, minutes feel like seconds, and somehow it's always later than you think. You start bargaining with yourself. If I study for just 10 more minutes, I can take a 20-minute break. 2 hours later, you're still on the break, staring blankly at a wall or watching a rerun of some old show you don't even like. The guilt sets in, but not enough to actually open the book again. And then comes the inevitable all-nighter, where you convince yourself that staying awake until sunrise will somehow compensate for weeks of neglect. Spoiler alert, it never does. On exam morning, the chaos reaches peak comedy. You set 3 alarms and still manage to wake up late. Your clothes don't match. Your hair looks like a small animal built a nest in it. And your breakfast is a handful of dry cereal because you don't have time for anything else. Some people show up looking like they've been through a natural disaster. Others arrive ridiculously early, armed with flashcards and a look of pure terror. There's always that one person who casually says, "I barely studied," while secretly carrying a mental encyclopedia. You try to focus, but it's impossible when your classmates are pacing like caged tigers or muttering formulas under their breath like some kind of academic cult. And just when you think it can't get funnier, the exam starts and reality hits. The questions look familiar, but your brain decides to play hide and seek. Everything you crammed last night has vanished like smoke. You stare at the page, trying to remember if you even attended the class this material came from. Your pencil feels heavier than a brick. Someone sneezes and you jump like you've been shot. There's always a pen that explodes, a chair that squeaks louder than a fire alarm, or a proctor who walks around like a detective looking for clues of wrongdoing. The tension is unbearable, but it's also completely ridiculous. You're basically sitting in a silent room full of people sweating over pieces of paper while one person in the corner coughs like a dying engine. And when it's finally over, when the papers are collected and you stagger out into the daylight, it's like escaping from a strange dream. The fresh air feels suspicious, like you've been released from a very polite prison. People compare answers, argue over details, and try to calculate their scores before the results even exist. Someone always claims the test was easy, and you have to fight the urge to trip them. You start to feel relief, but it's mixed with the realization that you probably forgot half of what you wrote down before you even left the building. But here's the real kicker. As stressful and absurd as the whole thing is, there's something weirdly bonding about it. Everyone's in the same boat, paddling through a sea of caffeine and panic. You share the same jokes, the same late night misery, the same desperate hope that the teacher will be merciful. You form temporary alliances with classmates you barely know, united by the common enemy of looming deadlines. For a few days, you're part of a strange, sleepless tribe that understands exactly what you're going through without a single word being spoken. And then, just like that, it's gone. The tests are over, the anxiety fades, and life goes back to normal. You return to regular meals, regular sleep, and the blissful ability to think about absolutely nothing for hours on end. The textbooks gather dust, the flashcards disappear, and the lucky socks finally make it to the laundry. And you realize the real comedy isn't just in the stress or the rituals or the ridiculous late nights. It's in how quickly we forget it all. We build this huge, dramatic production around exams, but as soon as they're done, it all melts away like a bad punchline. That's the beauty of it, though. For all the panic, all the caffeine, all the frantic scribbling, it's just another story you'll laugh about later, another chapter in the grand comedy of trying to look prepared in a world where nobody really is. You know what's really funny about exams? They're sold to us as the ultimate gateway to success, the golden ticket to a better life, the thing that separates the winners from the losers. Study hard, pass the test, and you'll be set. That's the pitch, but once you step out into the real world, you start to realize life never got the memo. Nobody out there is asking for your test scores. Life doesn't care if you aced algebra or flunked chemistry. Life's tests don't come with multiple choice questions or a neat little answer key. They show up unannounced, written in a language you don't speak, and they expect you to figure it out while juggling everything else that's already falling apart. And the best part, there's no grade, just consequences and a story to tell. Think about it. All through school you're trained to believe that passing exams prepares you for the real world. Teachers tell you this will help you later in life. Later in life when? Where is this mysterious future where someone corners you in a grocery store and demands that you explain the Pythagorean theorem before you can buy bread? I've been waiting for that showdown for years. Never happened. Nobody checks your ability to diagram a sentence before giving you a job. Nobody cares if you memorize the periodic table before they let you sign a lease. Out there, the real test is whether you can keep a straight face while your boss explains something that makes absolutely no sense, or whether you can stretch a paycheck to cover bills that multiply like rabbits. And guess what? None of that was on the syllabus. The punchline is that exams pretend to measure intelligence, but life measures something completely different. Life tests your patience, your creativity, your ability to stay calm when your car breaks down in the middle of nowhere and your phone battery is gasping its last breath. Life throws pop quizzes disguised as broken appliances, missed buses, and conversations you didn't study for. One day you wake up thinking it's going to be an ordinary Tuesday, and suddenly you're in a full-scale test of endurance because the water heater exploded, the landlord wants answers, and your neighbor's dog has decided to practice opera at full volume. Where was that chapter in the textbook? And the grading system? Mo, that's the funniest part. In school you get neat percentages, tidy letters, maybe even a gold star if you're lucky. In life, there's no paper to hand in, no teacher waiting with a red pen. You figure it out or you don't, and sometimes you don't even know which one it is until years later. You can feel like you completely bombed a life test and then discover it was the best thing that ever happened to you. Or you can think you nailed it, great job, perfect score, and then find out you were studying the wrong material the whole time. Life doesn't grade on a curve, it grades on chaos, and sometimes failing one test is the only way to pass the next one. The workplace is a perfect example. You spend years memorizing facts, taking notes, passing exams, and then you show up to your first job and realize the most valuable skill you can have is knowing when to nod while pretending to understand an email filled with jargon. They don't ask for your test papers. They ask if you can handle a broken printer or survive a 3-hour meeting about absolutely nothing. They don't care if you can calculate the square root of anything. They care if you can fix the coffee machine before a room full of caffeine addicts stages a revolt. That's the kind of exam life gives you: open book, open panic, and no extra credit. And relationships. Now there's a subject nobody prepares you for. You can memorize every date in history and still forget an anniversary. You can ace every essay and still fail to read the subtext of a conversation that starts with "we need to talk." Those are the real tests. Keeping a friendship alive when everyone's busy, learning to compromise when you'd rather be right, figuring out when to apologize even though you're positive the other person is wrong. No amount of flashcards can save you there. Life doesn't hand out practice tests for love, patience, or forgiveness. You just jump in, mess up, and hope you get partial credit for effort. Money is another sneaky exam that nobody warned you about. Remember how in school they made you memorize equations and historical facts, but never bothered to explain how interest rates work or why your paycheck disappears faster than a magician's rabbit. That's because figuring out finances is one of life's toughest exams, and it comes with trick questions. You think you're doing fine, and then suddenly there's a fee you didn't see coming, a bill you forgot to pay, or a tax form that looks like it was written by a bored alien. There's no teacher to ask for clarification, and even if there was, they'd probably just shrug and tell you to read the fine print, which, by the way, is printed in a font so small you need a microscope. And the timing of these life exams is hilarious. In school, at least you know when the test is coming. You get a date, a time, maybe even a review sheet. Life doesn't bother with that. Life gives you a pop quiz when you're already running late for work or when you thought you had the day off. You think you're going to have a quiet weekend, and suddenly the car won't start, the fridge is leaking, and your neighbor wants to have a serious talk about the noise you weren't even making. Surprise! Hope you studied spontaneity, because that's what's on the test today. What makes it all even funnier is that while exams in school are all about remembering answers, life's exams are all about asking better questions. You spend your early years chasing the right answer, and then you spend the rest of your life realizing nobody even agrees on what the right answer is. Should you take the job or quit the job? Stay in the city or move to the country? Save money or spend it on something that makes you happy? There's no all of the above option. You pick something, see what happens, and adjust along the way. Half the time you're not even sure what you're aiming for. You just know you don't want to stay in the same place forever. And yet, for all its chaos, life's testing system has a strange kind of wisdom. In school, if you fail, they make you repeat the material until you get it right. In life, failure isn't the end, it's the lesson. You don't have to wait a semester to try again. You can change jobs, move to a new city, start over as many times as it takes. Every mistake becomes part of the curriculum. Every bad decision adds to your experience points. It's like an endless game where the only real way to lose is to stop playing. And the best teachers aren't standing at a blackboard. They're the people you meet, the mistakes you make, and the crazy situations you somehow survive. The irony is that all those school exams we worried about so much were just warm-ups for the real thing. They made us nervous, sure, but they also gave us a taste of pressure, of deadlines, of figuring things out when the clock is ticking. Maybe that's the one useful lesson buried under all the useless trivia, learning to keep going even when you're not sure you're ready, because that's what life demands. You don't get to raise your hand and ask for more time. You just show up, do your best, and hope that somewhere along the way the answers reveal themselves. So maybe the real joke is that passing or failing those old exams never mattered as much as we thought. The important stuff was happening in the background, the friendships you built, the late night laughs, the quiet moments when you realized you could handle more than you expected. Those were the real grades, the ones nobody writes down but that shape who you become. And when life throws its next pop quiz your way, you'll be ready, not because you memorized a formula, but because you learned how to keep moving when you don't know the answer.